Joao Felix has finished his medical at Chelsea and is finalising his return to Stamford Bridge in a deal worth in excess of £46 million. Hi there, welcome along to the Transfer Show. It's another busy day, but Chelsea aren't finished there with a number 9 next on their shopping list with just 10 days to go until the window closes. As you can see, our chief reporter Clave Solokor, Michael Bridge and James Savundra join me this evening. Welcome along. Right, Liverpool are closing in on their first signing of the Arne Slot era. Goalkeeper Georgi Marmadashvili. Georgia coach David Webb joins us in the studio to talk his Anfield credentials. And Manchester United are exploring both a permanent and a loan deal with an obligation to buy for the Paris Saint-Germain midfielder Manuel Ugarte. And could Aaron Ramsdale be on his way out of Arsenal in order to find first-team football? We'll tell you which Premier League clubs are chasing his signature. OK, we're going to start, though, with Chelsea, like we did last night as well. I reckon we're going to start with them pretty much every day of the window now, potentially. But anyway, let's talk about it then, James. The imminent arrival of Joao Felix. Medical is done, yes?
Medical finished, just finalising paperwork when it comes to this signing now. He's expected to sign a 6-year deal at Chelsea with the option of a further year. And he'll fit within Chelsea's wage structure. The transfer could eventually be worth up to £46 million. He spent 6 months on loan. Not as successful as he had hoped. Not as successful a season as Chelsea would have hoped. When Graham Potter was there as a manager, he was sacked. Frank Lampard was in charge of the final games of the season. But this brings to an end 5 years that he's been contracted to Atletico Madrid. We need to bear in mind they signed him for £113 million from Benfica in 2019. After 5 years, a difficult relationship with Diego Simeone, a loan spell at Barcelona as well. His time in Spain is about to come to an end. And this signing will pave the way for an exit at Chelsea as well. Yeah, that sounds like a good deal for Chelsea then, when you put it like that, considering what they paid in the first instance. I think so. When you consider the fact Felix is still so young, he's just 24 years of age, he's got a point to prove as well. He's a player who needs a home, I think, at this stage of his career. I think a few days ago, when this transfer was first mooted, a lot of Chelsea fans were slightly confused because of how he got on during that loan spell. But Chelsea were in a very different situation there. They were just trying to get to the end of the season under Frank Lampard. He looked so bright in the first few minutes against Fulham on his first debut for Chelsea, but was sent off, and that really put things back for him. It was an expensive deal to do with the loan fee and the wages being paid. But I think Chelsea felt they've done good business here to sign a player who was, 5 years ago, the 5th most expensive player in transfer history in terms of signing. So it'll be interesting to see where he fits into that Chelsea attacking line, whether he plays as a 9, as a false 9 across the attacking areas. That's Enzo Maresca's problem now, but it looks like he's through the door. Yeah, and it's good news, I guess, for Conor Gallagher, because he's been in limbo, dare we say, for the last couple of weeks, hasn't he? So it looks like he can now go. Yeah, Vicky, before I mention Conor Gallagher, we are the Transfer Show, and we have a transfer, and it comes from Southampton. They've announced... That's what it says on the tin, doesn't it? Southampton have announced the signing of young midfielder Matheus Fernandes from Sporting Lisbon on a 5-year contract. It's great news for Southampton. They're looking to add to their squad this season, of course, to strengthening the Premier League. Fernandes has said, I'm very happy to be here. It's a dream come true to come to England and play in the Premier League. It's the best league in the world, in my opinion. It has the best coaches, the best players, the best teams. Russell Martin will love to hear that, won't he? And the manager has spoken on that. Matheus is a player we've been monitoring for a while, and someone we are really excited about. He brings great energy, retains possession well, and always looks for the forward pass. So Southampton, you have signed Matheus Fernandes from Sporting. But yes, on Conor Gallagher, look, it's been going on, of course, for some time. And yes, we've heard time and time again it's been tough for him, but it looks like it's very, very, very close now, flying to Madrid. Could complete it all by tomorrow in Madrid. And then hopefully for Conor Gallagher, we call it a saga, of course, but let's look at it on the positive now for Conor Gallagher. It's a big move for him, but it could be a potentially great move for him. A beautiful city in Madrid, an excellent manager in Diego Simeone. And you look at what Simeone maybe did to Kieran Trippier. Really improved his game there. You know, La Liga, going up against Real Madrid, Barcelona, really glamour games. Might help his England career. So hopefully for Conor Gallagher, it's a great move for him. All right. Maresca's made no bones about this, hasn't he? The fact that he wants a smaller squad. So are there outgoings? Yeah, there will be, and over the course of the next 10 days, that will be a real priority for Chelsea as well. And Ipswich are close to finalising a deal for Armando Broja to join Ipswich on a season-long loan. Now he's expected to undergo a medical at Ipswich in due course. Chelsea had initially preferred to sell the striker in this window. He's not been training with the first team squad, but it looks like he'll spend at least this season on loan, and he'll be hoping, and Chelsea will be hoping, that this loan spell is more successful than the one he had at Fulham in the back end of last season. He didn't start a single game, 81 minutes he featured in the Premier League, didn't score a single goal, and he'll be hoping that he can kickstart his career. He had that terrible injury, let's bear in mind, before that, when he missed pretty much a year of football. Mauricio Pochettino spoke really well about him at the start of last season, thinking he did have a role to play. Things didn't work out, but hopefully Ipswich will have a player now with some Premier League experience and to help Liam Delap and Sammy Smolix out in terms of scoring the goals they need to ensure this isn't just one season in the Premier League, they can stay up this year.
Yeah, the crowd.
Just one quick line, Vicky, before we go to Carve. Chelsea's UEFA Conference League qualifying, they've got that on Thursday, and they've released this. UEFA got the squad list ahead of that match on Thursday. There is no Raheem Sterling, there's no Wesley Fofana, there's no Ben Chilwell or Tosin. You'd assume maybe, especially with Fofana and Tosin, maybe slight injuries, but the Sterling one is an interesting admission, because you'd assume maybe it would be a game where Enzo Maresca gets a chance to look at maybe more squad players. We don't know yet how serious he'll take these early games at this stage of the season, but it is very interesting to say the least. But what we would say is this squad, if Chelsea do qualify to the league stage, Maresca can juggle that now, but ahead of Thursday, Sterling is not in that squad ahead of a two-leg playoff.
OK, thanks for that. Dare I ask the question, Carve? Any more incomings at Chelsea?
Yeah, I think there will be. I think once Chelsea complete a deal for Joao Felix, they will focus on trying to sign a new striker, a new number 9. I think they accept that that is what Enzo Maresca needs, and that was obvious watching the game against Manchester City on Sunday. Chelsea needs somebody like Erling Haaland. OK, you're not going to get somebody as good as him, but they need somebody in that mould. Kind of player they've had in the past.
Didier Drogba.
Diego Costa. You know, Chelsea
I loved Didier Drogba. Just putting it out there. I loved him.
They need somebody with a bit of personality, a character, with a bit of physicality.
Fear.
Yeah, you know, somebody who scores a lot of goals, somebody the fans can connect with. Now, somebody who ticks a lot of those boxes is the African Player of the Year, Victor Osimhen. We know he's been frozen out at Napoli. We know he wants to leave. We know Napoli are open to selling him. We also know that Chelsea are interested in signing him. But the latest information we have today is that Chelsea will not be signing him on a permanent deal as things stand. So Chelsea potentially only interested in a loan deal, but we already know that the player and his representatives are not interested in him going out on loan. They're saying if he's to leave Napoli, it has to be on a permanent deal. But I don't think Chelsea want to do a permanent deal at the moment because of the size of the transfer fee and also his wages. And the same goes for PSG as well. Every time people talk about Victor Osimhen, they go, yeah, he's going to leave Napoli, he's going to go to Chelsea or PSG. Well, PSG held talks about signing him earlier this summer, but they've moved on. They've signed other players. They've spent about 150 million euros, players in other positions. And I think they looked at Osimhen. I'm not sure Luis Enrique looked at him and said he's my top target as a forward. And also the overall size of the package, again, was too much for them. And Napoli are pretty difficult, maybe, to negotiate with. And that is not a criticism, because their president, Mr. De Laurentiis...
They're tough, are they?
They're tough. He always defends Napoli. He does what's in Napoli's interest. So I think for those reasons that I've just gone through, PSG and Chelsea would like him, but not for the numbers being quoted. I think Chelsea definitely would like to take him on loan, but we have to wait until we get closer to the deadline to see what Chelsea and Napoli can negotiate, if in fact they do negotiate something. And also we know that Romelu Lukaku is pretty close to moving in the opposite direction to Napoli as well. OK, well, the good news is if you're somebody that's coming to Chelsea, you can put down your roots, you can set your family up, basically, because you know that you're coming for a fair few years. I mean, their deals are quite long, aren't they? We can take a look at the graphic that we've made up for everyone to understand this situation at home. Look at that. Their squad, 191 years in the more. I mean, that's quite remarkable, considering that the nearest closest is Tottenham. Is this just good business sense, Carve? What are they doing here? Let's explain what's going on. I think we should leave that graphic up for a while, because You know, a lot of people this afternoon have been talking about it, sharing it on social media. You know, it is a shocking number. But instead of just criticising Chelsea, maybe we should try and, you know, dig into it a little bit.
Yeah, understand
try and
what
work
they're
out
doing.
what's going on from Chelsea's point of view. And I think what Chelsea would say is, look, we're very proud of the fact that our pool of 42 first-team players at the moment are contracted to us for a total of 191 years. I'm not laughing.
No, I am. But it does sound ridiculous when you say it. Yeah, I am.
Look, Chelsea's policy under their new owners is to give long-term contracts to new signings with low wages.
Yeah, that's the sense.
Low
That's
wages
the sense, yeah.
in Premier League terms. Now, the average wage in the Premier League is £72,000 a week. I think Chelsea, the signings they've made in the last 2 years, the average wage they're paying is between £60,000 and £70,000 a week, which is still a lot of money, but not in Premier League terms.
Absolutely.
Now, those contracts have incentives in them and also huge bonuses. So if you play regularly, if you produce on the pitch, you're going to earn a lot more than that. Now, the average length of contract left for the players that Chelsea have, those 42 players, they've got 4.5 years left on their contracts. Now, these players, if they perform, they get their incentives, everyone's happy. If they underperform, they're not playing, they're not in the first team, Chelsea will find it easier, maybe, to sell them because they're on relatively low wages, so they'll be easier to move on. So I think Chelsea see these players on these long-term contracts as an asset and not as a liability. And also, of course, having these long-term contracts, we've talked about this in the past, helps you comply with financial fair play and PSR rules, because it means that you can spread out the cost of a contract over a maximum of 5 years. Now, I'm not saying this is all my point of view, but I'm just trying to say that you have to try and understand what Chelsea are trying to do, understand it, and then have an opinion on it. Then say it's ridiculous, they don't know what they're doing, but try and understand what's going on first.
Yes, so you can see what they're doing, which is perhaps why, dare I say, the likes of Raheem Sterling may see themselves being phased out, the players that were on these massive wage bills, because he was on a 300 and plus a week. So you can understand what they're trying to do. Everyone's sort of shouting that they don't want to lose the likes of Raheem Sterling, but you can understand business sense why Chelsea are trying to do this.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, Chelsea are not interested in having players, older players, especially having any players who are earning anything like £300,000 a week. And they have quite a few of those players in their squad, and they're trying to move them on. I think their ideal is somebody like Cole Palmer, a brilliant young player who they sign. OK, they signed him for a lot of money, I think £40 million. But then he proved himself on the pitch. He gets a new contract, long-term contract. The wages he is getting, his base wage, still fits in with Chelsea's new wage policy. But, of course, he's got huge incentives and huge bonuses in his contract. But he's tied down to Chelsea until 2033. One of the problems with this policy is what happens if you sign a player to a 7-year contract or an 8-year contract and he turns out to be not very good. He can just sit there and take the money.
Wages,
so it is risky. But I think the Chelsea owners would say, OK, it's a risk worth taking if you're only paying that player £60,000 or £70,000 a week. It would be too much of a risk if you're paying players £200,000-300,000 a week. But I think at the level of wages they are giving new signings, base wages, they are comfortable with the risk. And finally, I would say, I think the thing with Chelsea is everyone's got an opinion on them at the moment.
Yes, they do.
I think what Chelsea would say is just wait until the window is closed and then judge us then. Because once the window is closed, Chelsea will have a 25-player Premier League squad, like every other team in the Premier League. They're not going to have a 40-player squad, a 50-player squad, a 60-player squad. It will be 25 players and maybe a few under-21 players as well. I know they've got a lot of players on their books, but a lot of players will be leaving. over the next few days and next week.
But in the fans' defence, because obviously we do get out there and amongst them and ask them the questions as well, they are concerned of the wholesale changes that it looks like Chelsea are going through, to lose the likes of the Conor Gallaghers, the people that have been the core of Chelsea. So that's, I guess, their concerns. And we can see what the business sense is, but remember that football isn't... It is a business, it's a great big business, but it's also a love of a game, and the fans have their favourites, their legends, and it feels like some of their legends, or people that perhaps they wanted to become legends, like the Conor Gallaghers and the Raheem Sterling, won't necessarily go on and be that because of this strategy.
You're totally right. That's a brilliant point. Chelsea have always had players that the fans have been able to identify with.
The Frank Lampard.
John Terry, Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, even going further back, players like Kerry Dixon, players like Ray Wilkins, Gianluca Vialli, legends they've had at that club. Yes, I totally understand. I know a lot of Chelsea supporters. Some of them are saying to me, we've lost our identity, we've lost our soul. When we go to Stamford Bridge, it doesn't feel like we're watching Chelsea anymore. I accept what they're saying. I accept what you're saying as well. I think what the owners would say is be patient. You will have new legends. You will have new heroes, new players that you can connect with in the future. We've got a big job on our hands. We took over a club they believe was in a bad state, and they're trying to rebuild it. But look, this is hugely controversial. All football fans at the moment have an opinion about Chelsea. All Chelsea fans have an opinion about the club as well. All I'm trying to do is just put both sides of the story out there and let people make up their own minds.
Like all good journalists should. Thank you, Carvey. And you too as well. Look, after the break, we're going to be discussing the rest of the transfer news. Arne Slot closes in on his first signing at Liverpool. We're going to be joined by one man who knows the goalkeeper, Georgi Marmadashvili, very well indeed. Stay with us for that. The eagle-eyed among you will be seeing that we've been joined by a very special guest, the current Georgia assistant coach, David Webb. Welcome to you. Before I talk to you, because it's the transfer show, things happen all the time, you, James, have got some breaking news for us.
Yeah, Vicky, a few minutes ago we said that Ipswich were close to finalising a deal to sign Armando Broja from Chelsea on a season-long loan. He's expected to undergo a medical over the course of the next few days. Now, a new line on this. The loan move is expected to include an option to buy worth in the region of £30 million. This would become an obligation if Ipswich are to avoid relegation from the Premier League. We have been reporting in the last few weeks that Chelsea would prefer a permanent sale. Well, if this deal goes through, then he will permanently join Ipswich if, big if, they stay in the Premier League at the first time of asking. OK, brilliant stuff. Let's turn our attentions to you then. You must be buzzing. You've had quite the lovely summer, haven't you, really, with Georgia?
Yeah,
I mean, you helped them get to the Euros. You reached the knockout stages. You did fall to Spain, but you were everyone's heroes. How did it feel?
Oh yeah, it was amazing. I think we approached the tournament with no fear, nothing to lose. The pressure wasn't really on us. So yeah, we just took each game, played our game with intensity, with passion, with togetherness, and yeah, I think we exceeded expectations and managed to get through to the knockout stages. A
personal favourite of mine, and I'm sure everyone's, was that you nobbled Cristiano Ronaldo's Portugal. How did that feel? What was that like with your team playing him?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, he's such a big presence, such a big player. But we managed to keep him quiet, which was good.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, so you could see him getting a little bit frustrated throughout the game.
Yes.
Which was great for us. And I think the longer it went on, the more frustrated he got. And yeah, and then we managed to get that second goal in the second half and kill the game.
Yeah, it was lovely. And I hear, a little birdie told me in my ear, Joshua, our producer, it said that he came in afterwards and spoke to you. Is that right?
Yeah, he did. He came in and spoke to us in the change room after. Like, shook everyone's hand. Yeah, he was class.
Classy, yeah, that's nice. Look, also playing in that game, of course, was a man that we've been talking about a lot. So we want to get your take on Joao Felix, because you know him well, don't you? So what do you make of him, and what will Chelsea be getting? Because obviously the loan spell that they had with him for 6 months or so didn't quite work out, I don't think, how both sides wanted it to. What are they getting this time around, you feel?
Yeah, he played against us. I think you're getting a player that can play sort of as a 9, as a 10. Technically very good, very clever, likes to play in the spaces between the lines. I think he would give them sort of a different dimension to their attack. He's not going to be someone who's going to lead the line, or he's going to be a hold-up player. He's going to be someone who can play between those spaces and probably allow the other players, maybe players like Jackson and Kudu, to run off him a little bit as well. So, listen, I think for me, when he's on fire, and if he comes in this time around and has a good spell, I think Chelsea could be getting a real good player.
OK. James, you have got some news on Liverpool, suddenly a player that David knows really well, so...
Yeah, Liverpool fans have been waiting so long for their first signing of this transfer window. It looks like it is going to be close. This might not necessarily be a player that features for Liverpool this season, but could be the future #1 of Liverpool. Georgi Mamardashvili signing from Valencia. Now, it's thought Liverpool offered a package worth up to around £30 million to sign him from Valencia. The deal will mean that he'll stay at Valencia this season on loan. There had been a suggestion that there could be a potential loan move in the Premier League. Bournemouth were very interested in signing him on loan. However, we understand that he prefers to stay at Valencia for another season. Now, I think it's really important to bear in mind Liverpool aren't trying to bring in and replace Alisson straight away. They're simply doing their due diligence on life after Alisson. He's still their #1, and they see him being the number 1 for many years to come. But at the age of 31, all good clubs, forward plan, and they're looking ahead to the future. And they were considering how well you know Georgie. Can you see him take out that mantle one day, being Liverpool's #1? Is he that good?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a really shrewd bit of business, knowing him as we do. I think he's got not only the goalkeeping attributes, outstanding shot stopper, he's got a real good personality as well. When you work with him, you can see his character come out. He's a very strong character. He's a very hard worker. He's very ambitious, and I think in the next sort of 2-3 years, in my opinion, he can probably become sort of top 3-4 goalkeepers in the world.
Really?
Yeah.
How would he cope? You know, because you said earlier, didn't you, James, that, you know, this is kind of preparation for Liverpool to sort of potentially, you'd have to say that he'd probably come in as a #2 for a while. How would he cope with that, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's. I think, like you said, that buying him now and then loaning him back so he can still play regular football. I think any player or even a goalkeeper, they know there's only one position.
Yeah.
So I think when you come to a club like Liverpool, as long as you've had those conversations beforehand and he knows exactly where he is, then he's going to be comfortable with that. But I'm sure down the line that, like you say, Alisson might not be at Liverpool forever, that he would take his chances of competing against Alisson and seeing if he can get through as well. Because if you look at his history, when he was at Valencia, he was signed as a fourth choice keeper.
Wow.
When he first come in. So I think he worked his way up within the year.
Gosh.
Or maybe 18 months. So he's definitely got that fight in him to compete.
Valencia will be really pleased to have him for another season as well. I just wonder if helping his integration to become a Liverpool goalkeeper, maybe that loan spell at Bournemouth, if that was an option, would have maybe readied him. We saw what happened with David De Gea when he started at Manchester United. He almost needed a season of seasoning in the Premier League before taking that role. I just wonder whether you think that's a wise step or not.
Yeah, I think for him, you can see the logic in that. So he gets ingrained in the Premier League and gets used to the pace and the standards, because obviously it's very different to Spain. But also I think the most important thing for him is that he plays and he's comfortable with Valencia, and I think knowing that he's got Liverpool coming up potentially as his next move, I think as long as he's playing regular football, I think he will still develop and learn there as well.
And Alisson's not a bad keeper to learn off, you'd have to say.
No.
OK, Napoli forward, I want to know whether I'm going to say this right. Kavisha Kvaratskhelia?
Yeah, not bad.
Oh, you say it.
Kvaratskhelia.
OK, there you are. Thank you very much. Been linked with many clubs for the past few seasons. Are you surprised that he hasn't gone anywhere yet, though?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think obviously the fee's quite high. Just the reports, what I've read, what Napoli are asking. He's definitely got the talent to play in the Premier League or Spain for one of the big clubs. There's no doubt in that. Surprised? No, because I think he's still young and he's still at a very good club. He's just got a new coach coming in, and he's so level-headed. So I think he knows his time will come. So he's not one of these who's going to push for anything. He's quite happy just to continue learning and then just wait for his right opportunity.
Just in terms of transfers and recruitment, you've been heavily involved with several Premier League clubs, haven't you, in recruiting players. What's it like this time for a club? Because we actually heard from Ange Postecoglou this last week, and he actually sort of talked about the anxiety that hangs over a club. Is that what you've witnessed?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm honest, I prefer being on the grass than to be on the desk doing the transfers, but it can be quite stressful.
What are the stresses? Tell me how that looks like.
Yeah, because obviously you're quite anxious that you want to get your targets. You want to get the right targets for the club. Obviously you've done a lot of work on, but if you do your job well, you've got secondary targets, third targets as well. So I suppose you're always anxious until the paper's signed, until you get it over the line, because there's so many things that can go wrong. Another club could come in, player could change his mind, something could happen. But yeah, it is quite stressful. I think a lot of managers and coaches, especially myself when I was in it, was glad when it was done. Just
tell me what it's like, because shows like ours don't really help the situation, because we talk about these choices that these clubs want, and then the player, the next one that you've got a second and third choice, must know that they're second or third choice. How do those conversations go with those players?
No, not really, because I think if as long as you're clear from the start I think when you're looking to sort of bring someone into the club, coach, even from my perspective now on the coaching side, you always have those conversations with the players and sort of you have clear expectations for the player as well. I think as long as everyone's honest from the outset of where he stands coming in, where he's going to come in and start, if he's going to be a squad player, etc. I think as long as you're honest and clear, it definitely helps going forward.
All right, brilliant stuff. You're going to stay with us, aren't you, for the next part as well, so don't go anywhere. Coming up, we are going to discuss Manchester United and Arsenal. Could Aaron Ramsdale be on his way out of the club? Stay with us for that.
in the midfielder.
Yeah.
Personally, I find Joao Palhinha irreplaceable. He's that good as number 6, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a great player. I think he was the engine for Fulham last year. Technically very good, very aggressive, good box-to-box player. So difficult to replace.
I think that position is so key. It's key for Liverpool, isn't it? It's something they're looking at the moment. It's just, like you say, it's the engine, isn't it? Does that mean then, James, McTominay, what's the situation with him at the moment? Is he staying at Manchester United? Because there was interest there, wasn't there?
Yeah, we definitely want to go into Fulham, it seems.
Right,
Now, Fulham having 2 bids turned down, and in the last few days we reported that Fulham were weighing up to go back in with a third bid or not. That doesn't seem to be the case. So, as things stand, Scott McTominay will remain a Manchester United player beyond the end of this transfer window. United may therefore need to be creative when it comes to potential incomings in that area. But United have always been very consistent on their stance, McTominay. They've always been very relaxed about his situation. Ten Hag has always backed the player. I think Ten Hag has found the right position for him in more of an advanced role than where he played it a couple of years ago alongside Fred. And behind the scenes, we were told that United would only sanction a deal for McTominay to leave in this window if he made it clear that he wanted to leave in search of first team minutes. It doesn't appear that has been the case. Now, Napoli do retain an interest in McTominay, but crucially here, they need sales to be able to fund a potential move. Osimhen, potentially if he departs, maybe they could come in for him in the final days of the window. He did feature against Fulham on Friday night, got 6 minutes off the bench. He is into the final year of his contract, but I think United are very relaxed about the situation. They don't see him leaving for free next summer because they retain that crucial option to extend his contract by another year.
OK, so, Michael, are they still in the business for a midfielder, Manchester United?
Yeah, I think Erik ten Hag's been quite clear. I think they've done some pretty good business so far, but he's openly said in press conferences they're not done yet, and I think most managers can say they're not done yet with the transfer window still open. And I think it's the midfield. They're really looking to strengthen the position. Central midfield, and the player we're hearing all the time is Ugarte from PSG. What we've learnt today is that both clubs would prefer a permanent move over preferably over a loan. If you remember last season, they brought in Sofiane Amrabat on a loan from Fiorentina, but they're both exploring the permanent option. That's what they both prefer. So if there's an agreement there might be that hope that they can push on with this and get this sorted before transfer deadline day.
You were nodding there, David. Is that something that United need, you feel? And is he the player that they should get?
I think he's a very good player.
OK.
I think he could give them some good balance because they got Casemiro and Kobe Manu, and I think if you bring someone like him, it gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can either play with them three midfield together. It gives maybe Kobe a little bit more licence to roam. Yeah. Because he's got that defensive knack as well. So I think he could be a good signing. Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at Casemiro because I think a lot of people might have thought that he might have moved on, but actually he looks like he's reinventing himself somewhat, isn't he, in that midfield? OK, let's move on to Arsenal because there's a situation there. Obviously, we know there's plenty of talk about this in terms of Aaron Ramsdale and what his future is now. It looks like, James, that he could be on his way out of Arsenal. Is that right? Yeah, to a Premier League club as well in the form of Wolves. They're in talks with Arsenal around this signing. Now, Wolves are after a loan potentially with an option to buy. I think Arsenal, if they're to sanction Ramsdale leaving this transfer window, they'd like a permanent sale or a loan with an obligation to buy at the end of this season. Now, Ajax do remain interested in Ramsdale. They had a loan offer turned down by Arsenal earlier on this month, and Arsenal working on potential replacements if Ramsdale was to leave. It did feel like it was going to be impossible for two number ones to survive at Arsenal when they signed David Raya. They'll say Arsenal they've been vindicated in that decision. They've increased that depth in the goalkeeper position. More clean sheets than anybody else by a country mile last season. They conceded fewer goals than everybody else in the Premier League as well. So they'll feel like they've done things right. But for Aaron Ramsdale, now is the time where he needs first team minutes. If he wants those first team minutes, Wolves could be an option for him in this window. Do you still see Aaron Ramsdale as the number one? You know, he hasn't done any damage to his reputation, has he? By being any damage in that? No, not at all. Because I think from Arsenal's point of view, I mean, it's a luxury to have sort of two quality goalkeepers in competing, and Reyes seems to sort of be getting ahead at the minute. Aaron will probably feel quite frustrated that he's not playing, and he will want to go out and play. So looks like Wolves could be a good option for him to go and get regular minutes. Yeah, I agree with that. Another potential outgoing, Eddie Nketiah, another great player, you'd have to say. So is he on his way? Well, Nottingham Forest are pushing really hard to try and sign him in the final days of this transfer window. Now, the talks that have taken place between Forest and Arsenal have highlighted that there is a gap in valuation between both
where both clubs are. But the fact they remain in talks makes you feel like they may be able to come to a compromise, because we understand Arsenal value Nketiah at more than £30 million. They turned down an offer for around £17 million from Marseille earlier on in this transfer window. Crystal Palace also remain interested in Nketiah. It feels like he does need regular first-team football. He's 25 years of age. I know he's got the baby face, but he is getting to a stage now where he needs first-team minutes. He does have 3 years left in his contract, and for Nottingham Forest, they're looking for extra options in that forward area, though they are quite well stocked already with Chris Wood and Taiwo Awoniyi.
OK, what about Merino? Is he on his way in?
Does sound very positive for Arsenal. He really wants to go. There's a lot of Real Sociedad players, we've seen it with Zubimendi in Liverpool, that they've got this attachment to their club, the Basque region. But Merino's made it clear to Arsenal that he does want to join. Talks are continuing. So we'll have another try Mikel Arteta this Friday. Gary Cotterill gave it a good go. And good luck to whoever it is this Friday. It might be Gary again.
Send Gary back.
Yeah, send Gary back. Yeah, send Gaz back. He liked the lunch on there as well. So yeah, good luck to Gary. But no, and I mean, I think Arsenal are looking really strong at the moment.
I think, do you know, they are the blueprints. You know, if you look at how to run a club, you know, there was talk in Arteta's first year, he was on the way, you know, it was all going horribly wrong, and they stuck with him. Him and Edu have built this amazing team. What are their chances this time around? You know, they've been runners-up for the last 2 seasons. Are they going to do it this time around, 4.5 years into Arteta's tenure?
Yeah, I think they're going to be right up there challenging, definitely. And I agree, and I think that just goes to show that it's good club stability, especially as a coaching point of view. You want to be given time to work, to implement your ideas. And like you say, he didn't start off too great in terms of their league position, but over time he's turned them into a formidable force, and now they're going to be challenging again for the Premier League for sure.
You say challenging. I was putting you on the spot. Do you think they'll win it?
I don't know.
OK.
I think it'll be down between Arsenal and City again.
Yeah, OK.
My opinion.
Yeah, I say Arsenal. Right. The reason why I think you were saying that Arsenal might not be, maybe, I mean, I'm not judging you, but you're a Spurs fan. Is that right?
I can't believe you'd out him do that. It's awful when they do that.
I know.
I'm really sorry about that.
So just go on, you know, just to get your parity on it all. What have you made of the signings that Ange Postecoglou? We saw Dominic Solanke in action last night. What did you make of him?
Yeah, I thought he started quite brightly. He needs probably sort of 2 or 3 games to find his confidence. I think he's definitely a good signing for Tottenham. He gives them that focal point. He's a natural number 9. He can link play, and it allows sort of players like Song and Johnson and other players that freedom to roam around him a little bit. So I think he will come good this season and do well for Tottenham. Yeah,
and Ange Postecoglou is very clear. You know, he says, I often win things in my second season. It's his second season. I think he feels like the pressure's off him a little bit more because nobody's watching him all the time in his first season. Would you agree with that? What do you expect from Spurs this time around?
Yeah, I think so. I think I was listening to an interview where he said yesterday when he came in and Harry Kane left shortly after, and he had to make some adjustments and changes. So the first season for the Premier League is always hard. He wanted to implement his style and his way of playing, and it was, you know, very attacking, very exciting, played with a lot of intensity and passion. So I think he's had another good pre-season with Tottenham. They've added some really good young players into the squad as well, and I think he'll be hopeful that they'll be up there challenging for Champions League places and maybe try and get a trophy if they can as well.
I know you're not going to believe this, but I'm going to move on from Tottenham because I wanted to get you on Wilf Zaha, someone you know really well, someone you saw him at 10, 11 years of age.
Yeah.
He's someone we've covered a lot on the transfer shows year after year after year. I remember talking about Arsenal, then Everton, big bids, and never happened in the end. And he loves Palace, and he will always love Palace. But he was obviously linked with Palace over the last few weeks, and then at Leicester. Look, Steve Parish is saying it's difficult potentially to do with the finances involved. How do you feel about Wilf at the moment when you see his career? Do you reckon you'd like to see him back in the Premier League for another year or two?
Yeah, I think with Wilf, he's obviously known him as I do. He's a special player, and I think he's still got that attacking quality. He's still got that pace, and he's still going to be a major threat for Premier League teams. I think he can still add a lot of value. So I think if there was a team looking at if they need that sort of attacking wide player that can also play a number 9, I think he would add a real goal scoring threat.
Just before you go, I think we might have to go to a break in a minute, but I just wanted to ask you, because let's say it's something that you were very involved with in the recruitment side of things. Looking at this window, is there a player that you look at and you think, "Oh, that's the best bit of business so far"? Who do you think's come in and thought, "Do you know what? They're going to light it up"?
There's not any particular ones. I've noticed it's a few ones that I quite like. I like Smith Rowe to Fulham. I think that's a really good one. Didn't get much playing time with Arsenal.
Yeah.
He's someone I knew from when I was at Huddersfield as head of football, so I think he could real add value to Fulham as well.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think Joao Felix could add something to Chelsea. I think there's a lot of talk around sort of him coming in, where's he going to play and stuff. But I think when you've got someone of that quality, and he's experienced as well, playing in Champions League, that little bit more top class quality, I think he could be quite good.
All right, you've been brilliant company. Thank you so much. Will you come back?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They don't often say they'll come back, so that's great news. OK, stay with us. Could Manchester City's former captain be on his way back to the Etihad after a year at Barcelona? Updates from around the Premier League on the way.
Arsenal, as we always do, they remain in talks with Real Sociedad over the signing of midfielder Merino, but there is still work to do on this deal.
Aston Villa have confirmed the return of Kane Taylor from Manchester City. The 19-year-old came through Villa's academy.
Now, Bournemouth's pursuit of Georgie Mamashvili looks to have fallen away after Liverpool's move for the goalkeeper. They're still in the market for a keeper and reviewing other targets.
Well, Al Ali remain in talks with Brentford over the signing of Ivan Toney. However, they are still believed to be some distance away from meeting Brentford's valuation.
Let's get to Brighton. Clubs in England, Italy and Germany have explored conditions of a deal for their defender, Tariq Lamptey. He's entered the final year of his contract.
Joao Felix has finished his medical and is now finalising his transfer to Chelsea from Atletico Madrid.
Crystal Palace remain interested in signing Eddie Nketiah from Arsenal. We know Arsenal looking for around £30 million for the striker.
Everton have rejected a loan offer from Marseille for striker Neil Maupay. The Toffees prefer a permanent move.
Fulham have agreed a deal worth an initial £20 million with Burnley for the signing of Sander Berge. He was due to undergo a medical today.
Well, Chelsea striker Amanda Breuer will have a medical tomorrow ahead of a move to Ipswich. The deal is for a season-long loan with an option to buy for £30 million. It will become an obligation to buy if Ipswich stay up.
Big ask that. Steve Cooper has said Leicester are hoping to make some attacking additions before the end of this window.
Well, Liverpool are closing in on the signing of Georgie Mamashvili from Valencia. It's likely the goalkeeper will stay on loan at the Spanish club this season as part of the deal.
Bridgie, this is really interesting. Reports suggest Man City are interested in bringing back their former captain, Ilkay Gundogan, from Barcelona.
Well, going to Man United now, and Erik ten Hag still wants to add a midfielder and a left-back to his squad. One player at the top of the list we know is Mamo Ugarte, but United are playing the waiting game with regard to any deal.
Newcastle still looking for a centre-back in this window. Will they go back in for not a first, not a second, not a third, not a fourth, a fifth time for Mark Gahey?
Now, Nottingham Forest are pushing to sign Arsenal striker Eddie Nketiah. Arsenal understood to value him at more than £30 million.
And we broke this news earlier on this show. Southampton have signed Mateus Fernandes from Sporting. The 20-year-old midfielder has signed a 5-year contract.
Well, Tottenham are keen to offload Sergio Reguilon and Giovanni Lo Celso. A new midfielder hasn't been ruled out.
West Ham keep signing players. They've agreed a deal with Paris FC for the signing of midfielder Mamadou Kanté.
Wolves are in talks with Arsenal over the signing of goalkeeper Aaron Ramsdale. The Wolves are exploring a loan, but Arsenal want a permanent deal.
Right, we are waiting for official confirmation of Joao Felix's return to Stamford Bridge. Michael Dawson was on the Football Show earlier and was critical of Chelsea's spending plans and, in particular, the re-signing of Felix.
We saw him in the Chelsea shirt before. I think it was four goals in 16 Premier League appearances for Chelsea. He didn't set the world alight then. Why it's done now, I don't know. But I don't know with some of the signings that they've made. You look at positions where you go, we need to improve in that position. They just sign players that they think are good players, but probably don't even need them. Well, that's Chelsea's way of doing it. They spend a fortune, and now it's down to Maresco to have to deal with that. And it must be an absolute nightmare for him, having to deal with these players on long contracts, earning big money, and you're trying to keep them all happy.
Keeping them all happy. We've been keeping you all happy at home this evening. And if you've enjoyed the show, you've been in really good company because a very special person has been watching the show, Mauricio Pochettino, and his dog. Look at this. I love this. On his story, on his Insta story, just telling us that he's watching, probably missing being a part of it, you'd have to say.
We said a few days ago the managers watch, Vicky.
Yes.
There's more proof that they are.
Yeah.
The dog is watching every word that Carve's saying.
Yeah.
And why not?
You said that Carve was looking a bit rough, didn't you?
That was a joke off air.
Yeah, as in the dog. Rough. Anyway, you two have been brilliant as always. Thank you so much for today. Plenty more from the transfer show tomorrow, of course. It will return for you at 5 o'clock and 7 p.m. Stay with us. We've got plenty more ahead of a very busy night. 12 games in the Bristol Street Motors Trophy. And we'll also have more on our top story as well. Joao Felix on his way back to Stamford Bridge. We'll have plenty more on that story for you now. Stay with us.